Welcome.
Migraines, depression, didn't want to get out of bed. So that was the first time at the age of 38 that I'd ever needed a doctor. And it was the first time that I ever found out in the Western healthcare system what doctors actually did. Because I asked the question, what did I do wrong? What did I eat? What did I breathe? And the answer I got was, that's not what we do. What we diagnose and we prescribe, right? And so that set me off on this journey of discovering true root cause healing medicine, my body, my mind, my spirit, all of it, and learning that there's so much that I didn't know.
That's incredible. So for you, what was really like the defining moment, the experience that led you to really specialize in your specific field for genomics and for everything that you're doing right now?
So the big aha moment was, I couldn't resolve, although I started to learn through things like traditional Chinese medicine, naturopathy, homeopathy, how to feel better, I didn't understand what went wrong. And I one day, through my own genetic profile, found a gene called GSTM1. And when I looked into my code, it was missing. I didn't have the gene. I was like, that's weird. Like, an entire line of code is not even available in my human genome. So I discovered that gene drives detoxification of the gut. So whatever you're eating, plastics, pesticides, packaging that comes along with the food, this is your first line defense to remove those things so that they don't enter your bloodstream. And I don't have the genes, and my body literally doesn't do that job. And no surprise, when I thought I was eating healthy, still whatever was okay for everybody else was a major threat to me. And no surprise that I had autoimmune and inflammatory conditions. That was one of many things, but to your point, that was the thing that opened my eyes to, wow, I can actually take control of how I feel.
Wow, that's incredible. So how would you say it's common that people are missing lines of genetic code? Or is that a pretty...
So it's not common. Yeah, it's not common. In fact, even that form of variation isn't common. Usually what happens is there's 22,000 genes that make up the human genome. Each one of those genes is many thousands of letters long. And on a specific location, sometimes there's a spelling mistake. It was supposed to be a G and instead it's a T. Now that instruction is misspelled, so it's not doing its job properly. That's called a SNP, SNP, which is the most common variant that people look for. Then there's something called a copy number variation, where the entire gene is missing or it's duplicated. So imagine if the impact of a spelling mistake is being studied by pharmaceutical companies, what happens if the whole gene is missing? Now the challenge is, this only happens in some of the most important detoxification genes.
Okay.
For most of the genome, it is not even possible. It just happens to happen in some certain genes. So yeah, it's a phenomenon that actually our chief scientific officer at the time had actually discovered.
Wow, that's amazing. All right. So when we think about genetic testing, please tell people a little bit about the DNA company and what you do and some of the success stories that you've had, because what I heard last night on your webinar, I'm just floored with some of the amazing things you've
Yeah.
done for people.
So we spent about 3 years researching 7,000 people. So the intention was, how do we use the genomic science that existed to reverse engineer chronic disease? Up until that point, genetics was only being used for rare genetic conditions. You have an 80% chance of this, you have a 60% chance of that. Versus there's cardiology issues, or cardiovascular disease issues in my family, breast cancer in my family, Alzheimer's in my family. Why does it happen? And if I know why, now I know exactly how to carve out a path that's a detour to prevent that thing, as opposed to just worrying about this potential negative future, right? So it was through studying these 7,000 people that we learned, from breast cancer to autism to mood issues like anxiety and stress, to people that are stuck with weight issues, Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, all of these things that could be unraveled at the root cause level. And so about a year ago, I actually left the DNA company, the company that I started, to pass it on to a team that understood healthcare. I said, I built the machine, I built the science, I did the research. Now you guys go plug this into every clinic in the United States and the rest of the world so people have access. And since then, I'm coaching people directly, trying to take all of what I've learned to help them get better.
Wow. And thank you for doing all of that. What are a couple of the success stories that you've had from people that have, besides yourself, of course, that you could tell
Yeah.
the audience to really inspire them to start looking into the genomics and seeing what I wouldn't say wrong, but I will say upregulated, downregulated, or possibly missing.
So, well, when you think about genetics, you think about propensity, right? Here, this potential disease might be coming. Let's break down how it's so much more than that, and so much more directionable and actionable, what we call functional genomics. So the number one thing that people say to me when I talk to them about with genetics, and when they hear it for the first time, is, I don't want to know if I'm getting Alzheimer's, right? I just prefer not to know. And that's usually what they say. It's very common, so for some reason. So, but I also get it. It's like, why would you want to know and have anxiety over this potential horrible future, right? So what I tell them is, the genes that give you that answer are being misinterpreted. Yes, a scientist will tell you that, but that doesn't mean it's a prescription for the disease. So the actual ApoE gene, which is referred to as the Alzheimer's gene, there's a certain version of that gene where we have a very low risk of dementia. There's another version where we have an 8 to 10 times risk of dementia. And there's another version where we have a 17 to 25 times elevated risk of dementia. And if you have one of those higher versions, you have to ask yourself, what does this gene do? How does it cause dementia? So this gene is responsible for moving cholesterol, lipids in your body, transport. It's a transport tool. And if you have a bad version of the gene, you don't do a good job of transport. Nowhere in there did it actually cause Alzheimer's. If you have inflammation in your brain, suppose you ate something, breathed something, had a high level of stress chronically ongoing, you may have inflammation in your brain from that exposure. Could be something you breathe, could be something you eat, not in a single day, but ongoing multi-year exposure. Now, eventually, there's inflammation in your brain. Your body will actually deploy cholesterol to your brain to fix the inflammation. That's what it does. And it's a very beneficial hormone that fixes things. If you have a bad version of the transport tool, you're going to develop a plaque. The transport doesn't happen properly, so the cholesterol starts to accumulate in the brain and eventually create what we call an amyloid plaque, which leads to brain cell death, which leads to something that you diagnose as Alzheimer's, right? So really, the disease-centric science we have, science is studied in the context of people that are sick, so that we can make medication, versus studying healthy people to ask, why did they not get sick? What did they do right? And if you think functionally, okay, ApoE gene is a prescription, a warning, this is your priority. It's not your propensity, it's your priority. Now go look at your gut. Now go look at your hormones. Now go look at environmental factors. Now go look at your food that you're eating, metabolism. Go look at it, and you know what caused the inflammation. Don't worry about what version of the gene you have. So we use the genome to direct what your habit should be, as opposed to scaring people with what their risks are.
I love it. And to that point, Dr. Bruce Lipton, one of the founders of epigenetics, where he talks about genes being upregulated or downregulated based upon their environment, that not necessarily always you're just born this way. And to that point, I'm sure, well, in Canada, you're better off than we are here in America. And in India, I think, I'm not quite sure where you're at there for everybody who's in the other parts of the world, but the United States, we're known for having the most additives to our food. We have poisonous food, water, air. We have such a high stress load that we're producing these cortisol and these different hormones of stress, which are breaking us down and causing different diseases as well. And then we have our EMF, we have our 5G, we have all these different things that are bombarding us with different frequencies that the human organism did not evolve to actually handle. If you think about it, 30,000 years ago, we'd get up, we'd go grab our spear, kill a little animal, eat it, go back to our home, our cave or something, hopefully have the opportunity to make more of us, and then go to sleep and rinse and repeat. That's how our body really was designed. And so now we have so much bombardment by our environment and even our internal environment that looking at what we can do, that's why I really suggest everyone go look at the DNAcompany.com, Kashif's company, because we all have these genes, and we have a higher incidence of cancer, higher incidence of asthma, higher incidence of diabetes, Alzheimer, type 3 diabetes up in Canada. We won't really admit that here in the United States, I think, not quite yet. But there are all these different things that we're not born with them. Now, if you're born without legs, guess what? You don't have the genetic marker to have legs. You don't have legs. But you can have prosthetics, but growing them back, maybe that's something we could do in the future. But Kashif, when it comes down to people looking at what they can do as far as their environment right now, as far as what they can do for their food, for their water, for their air, what are some tips and some suggestions that you could give the people out there if they're able to make those changes to do so?
Yeah, I would say you have to understand that the context that you live in today is very different than grandma and grandpa's reality, right? Yeah. Things have changed a lot. We have 144,000 chemicals have been added to humanity since the 1970s. Things have changed a lot, right? And most of that is around food preservation and production, flavors, preservatives, etc. A lot of it also has to do with your personal care products. So there's a study that just came out of this university in Belgium that says that the indoor air quality of our North American homes are now 4 to 5 times worse the outdoor pollution because of the amount of personal care products with fragrances, chemicals, the fabric softener, the soap, shampoo, perfumes in a drywall home that doesn't breathe, right? We never open the windows, etc. And so just knowing what to purge and replace with going back to simplicity and what's clean and natural. I would say the other big one is EMF, electronic pollution, which we're unaware. It's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere, right? And even when you turn your Wi-Fi off at night, your neighbor's Wi-Fi is still entering your home. So what is your strategy around neutralizing EMF or potentially, using PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequency, to mitigate and make yourself feel better and heal your cells? And I think you nailed it in terms of stress, which is, there's a study that was done by Harvard where they looked at all these centenarians, people that are 90 plus, and they said, what's the one thing that these people did, that they all did, that we didn't expect was the thing that they were doing, right? And they said that all of these people had a very low number of very high quality relationships, which meant that they were surrounded by love, oxytocin, and pleasure, not stress, anxiety, and trauma, right? And so this is a constant in the background inflammatory insult of cortisol, which we don't think about. Now, if we talk about mood and behavior and how the brain works, we're all different. And if I have your DNA, I can describe your personality to a T. I can tell you if you were meant to be a doctor, a lawyer, or if you're meant to be an entrepreneur. It's already hardwired in here, right? And so knowing how some of us overreact to stress, some of us underreact and burn ourselves out, some of us give too much meaning to things, some of us believe a little too easily, some of us don't believe at all. The genetics of that is very clear, the neurochemicals that drive those perceptions. So I would say one big area, in fact, everyone that I coach on a personal level, it doesn't matter what they came for, I always start with their brain. Always. I say, until we resolve how you think and perceive, it doesn't matter what we're trying to fix, it's not going to work. We always start here.
So, in that vein, what you said really sparked something in me, that you can look at somebody's genetic code and you can actually tell their personality and actually see what their propensities in life would be. So, I've been working in the self-improvement field for 25 years. I've taught thousands of people, and a lot of people, they're in their 50s and just, dang, they're like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I've been working in this career, but it's something that I did for the money, or I did it because my parents wanted me to, or because that was expected of me, or I thought it would make me happy, but then I get there and I find out it's really not there, and they don't really know what they want to be when they grow up. So if I understood you correctly, you're saying that with your genetic testing, you could help people actually zero in on their purpose more accurately?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very clear. Let me give you a simple example. There's a neurochemical in your brain called dopamine. Dopamine is what allows you to experience pleasure.
I like
eat
that
some
one.
food. Yeah, everybody likes it, right? It also allows you to experience reward, which is achieving something at work. And between those two, there's a gene that determines how many dopamine receptors you have in your brain, and there's another gene that determines how quickly you make the protein that gets the dopamine out of your brain. So to what level of intensity did you feel it, and how long did it last? So if you look at my profile, I have the lowest possible level of receptors, the worst DRD2 gene, and the fastest possible clearance. So what does that equal? I can't get no satisfaction, right? So the clinical answer is I'm wired for depression, right? Which, by the way, I've experienced. There's another clinical answer, which is I'm wired for addiction, which I've also experienced. But what I've now learned is this was actually a gift that I misinterpreted. I'm not an addict and I'm not depressed. I am a warrior that is reward seeking. I meant to challenge myself. And now that I'm entrepreneurial, I feel amazing. Now that every day I wake up taking risks and challenging myself and leading the team forward, I'm doing what I was designed for. When I was trying to play the middle and be the average guy, it was depressing because I'm not wired for that. Now, there's so much more we can talk about. There's a gene called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which determines how effectively you process neuroplasticity, the development of the brain, the actual physical hardware of the brain. And BDNF is kind of like the fertilizer that helps you build your brain. If you have good BDNF genetics, you do a good job of this. You make healthy neurons, and every time you learn a new thing, hear a new concept, it's very easy for you to grasp and accept. If you have bad BDNF genetics, then you become more of a, with blinders on, subject matter expert. Here's what I know it really well, and I don't care about it. In fact, if I try and do the other thing, I'm probably going to stumble and fumble, right? But the thing that I know, I'm very, very good at. And this profile tends to have a deeper level of belief. And you'll find that, I work with, in my own religious community, and I can kind of identify who the people are and what their DNA is going to be, because I can tell who really, truly believes with their heart and is very rigid in their beliefs and doesn't want any change. And then the people that are more malleable in their beliefs and are willing to explore and accept. And then you have to know the role. The explorer needs to go explore and bring things back to the community. The believer needs to be the scholar who actually studies and researches and keeps the information flowing. So we all find our role, and then the community gets better versus having friction because we all think we're supposed to think the same.
So in that regard, when it comes down to upregulating or downregulating certain genes, do you think it's possible for somebody who is, say, genetically predisposed to be a believer could actually hack their way into being an adventurer?
Yes. So we've learned, and this is partly what I did for those 3 years when we studied those 7,000 people, is I tried to find which nutrients change the expression of which gene. And so, simple example, the BDNF gene that we talked about, I now know that the fruit that grows on the coffee plant, not the bean, but the fruit, the coffee berry, if you were to take that, it massively upregulates BDNF. Right? Let me give you another example. So, because BDNF causes people to have deeper beliefs, it also causes new concepts to have more weight or meaning. So imagine if it's new and you struggle processing it, you give it a lot of meaning because it's hard to believe and accept, right? And so call it the drama queen response. Everything means a lot, whether it's good or bad, right? So now, if that's the case, the Finnish people from Finland, are more likely ethnically to have the suboptimal BDNF. They're almost everybody from Finland has this bad gene, right? So technically, you should have a country of drama queens with a lot of friction, a lot of, anger, a lot of fighting, but also a lot of joy, extremes in mood. Meanwhile, Finland is voted the happiest country in the world over and over and over again. So why? Because Finland also culturally has more utilization of sauna per capita than any country in the world. And we know when you get into the sauna and you develop what's called a heat shock protein, your brain surges BDNF levels and you feel incredible as if you had the good gene. So this is why they do it, because when they don't feel good, right? They have to do it. Otherwise they get grumpy, they get moody, they get depressed because they go back to their genetic baseline. So yes, we can determine how we feel. And this is how you block chronic disease in its tracks, how you slow aging down, but also discover your mental superpower and be that person.
That's fascinating. So when it talks, just to go onto the subject of the heat shock protein, so my lineage, my genetics are Russian, so we kind of thrive on the cold shock protein of the cold water immersions, I think, and that's a daily thing for me. I can't say I like it, but it's something that it invigorates me. So in those two extremes, and I also like saunas as well. Could you explain just a little bit between the difference between the heat shock protein and the cold shock protein and how they affect us genetically? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, so what we find in simplest terms, cold is going to give you zen in the mind, and the heat shock protein is going to give you repair. And with the heat, your body actually thinks it's dying. It can't reconcile, like, what is this extreme temperature, and it literally thinks you're dying, and it can't understand why. So every regenerative process starts firing, which is repair of the brain, repair of the mitochondria, repair of cellular tissue, which is why sauna will drop, regular use. There's a minus 65% risk of dementia. Like, it's a massive reduction in Alzheimer's risk, and I think a 45% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk because of the repair that happens and the detoxification. The cold is going to upregulate neurochemicals because the cold gets you into warrior mode, right? It's like, I'm going out for the hunt. I need to be ready. Dopamine, serotonin, BDNF all get upregulated. That's why you feel so zen and calm and the anxiety is gone. So you're getting a little bit of all this from both of them, but there is nuances, as I just said.
So I've been doing something for many years to prevent delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, and that is a alternating super cold to super hot shower, just like a 2 minutes for cold, 3 minutes for hot, 2 minutes for cold, 3 minutes for hot. And I actually learned this from the Bulgarians back. This is during the Cold War, that they really wanted to beat the United States. They were part of the Soviet bloc, and they wanted to beat the United States, and in the Olympics. And so they were using this to recuperate their muscles faster. So if I understand correctly, if I'm doing this, then I can actually increase my happiness through the hot, increase my warrior through the cold, and I become just like a really pretty chill warrior. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's that contrast therapy, first of all, allows you to sustain the exposure for longer, right? And you get the benefit of both, and that's why it's very powerful. In fact, I would say the biggest way to do this is a bit of a sauna hack, where you go in the sauna for 30 minutes, and then you go freezing cold for 10 minutes, and because it takes you a few minutes to be able to actually feel the cold when you come out of a sauna. You actually need it. And then you do the sauna again for another 30 minutes. And if you do that twice in a day, and you're not going to do this all the time, you might do this once a month, right? It's 1 hour of sauna for the full day. Massive upregulation in testosterone, massive anti-aging benefit, massive mood change. So it's a bit of a full sauna hack day to kind of reset everything.
That's incredible. So, here on this Pure Minds, Pure Energy show, I'm bringing on amazing masters in different fields, such as yourself, because the people who are part of the Pyramid Spiritual Society movement, they're all about becoming the very best version of themselves, increasing their health, and meditation is a deep part of that. So, with your DNA company and what you offer, do those methods encourage a deeper connection between your mind, body, and spirit?
Oh yeah. So that's what happened to me unintentionally. As I grew up religious through my culture, but I didn't know that I wasn't spiritual. I didn't know that it wasn't a connection. It was just all dogma. It was what, making sure my mom was happy with my behavior and I was following the rules, right? Once you get, so here's the interesting thing is your DNA is not just an instruction manual. It is not just something that drives biology. Your DNA, if you picture that spiral, that twisted ladder formation, right? The point where those rungs in the middle meet the sidebars, all those locations, are actually signaling sites. So when we are believing, praying, manifesting, the way that you actually send the signal out into your magnetic field is from your DNA. It's literally a sending device, and your mitochondria is a receiving device. So your mitochondria are constantly surveying the environment to read information to tell your cells exactly what you need. That's why you can kind of sense somebody walking behind you, your mitochondria sensing that for you and telling you, and your DNA sends the signals out. So aging, the definition of aging is damage to your DNA. So as you're walking around in stress with bad food, with toxins, etc., your DNA is experiencing oxidation or wear and tear, and it starts to degrade in its physical form, and that's why we age physically. So being in optimal health allows you to be an optimal spirit, because the tool that you need to actually connect with the fabric of the universe that sends your beliefs out through your magnetic field is your DNA. And in order for your DNA to actually be able to do the job, it has to not be oxidized, which means you have to have no inflammation, no toxins, no stress, and so on and so on and so on. So this is what happened to me. When I got healthy, my spiritual side went from praying because the family's doing it to connecting and feeling like I'm connected to something and actually receiving back what I'm actually trying to get that helps the world. And I went from working for money to working for purpose, which is also why I don't run the company anymore, because I realize there's something greater I need to work on, right? So, and it's hard to have that sense of purpose if you aren't directly connected your spirit to the fabric, right? So this is what I learned, and health will give you connection.
Absolutely. I could not agree with that more after doing what I've been doing for decades and seeing that connection where people, there are a lot of meditation and spiritual disciplines where it's very inactive, and that's okay, and they're using their mind. But when we start to dive into fitness and breath work, and that's one reason why yoga is so beneficial, is because you're keeping your body supple and limber, is one of the reasons. So for what we're doing here, how does breath work and meditation, have you noticed in any way that it affects us genetically or improves our overall well-being on a genetic level?
So I would say the number one way to rinse the inflammation of cortisol off of your cells is meditation. There's nothing that works better. And that ability to get into that state is the exact opposite of stress. And it's very interesting because the same exact part of your brain that allows you to experience anxiety, stress, and trauma is exactly where you process gratitude and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Same physical part of your brain. And your brain is not capable of doing both at the same time. So if you're in a state of gratitude, and if you're in a state of forgiveness, you literally cannot feel anxiety, cannot feel stress, cannot feel trauma, which heals you from those daily toxins.
So I would say, if I understand you correctly, that for a long, happy, healthy, fun span and lifespan, meditation is essential. It's an essential part.
It's essential. It's a nutrient for your cells. Think of it as, we think of a chemical as a toxin, and now what supplement do I take to detoxify that? You also have to think of cortisol and the stress as a toxin, because same outcome to your cell, inflammation. Right? It's one of the 5 pillars. If I were to tell you the 5 big things that cause the inflammation, that cause disease, it is what we just said: cortisol and stress, because it causes inflammation. It is your leaky gut, if your gut is damaged, which allows your toxins from your food directly to enter your bloodstream, cross different barriers, and make you sick. It is metabolic. What did you eat, and are you genetically actually designed for that or not? Both the quality, the volume, the macros and the micros, all of that. It's environmental. What are you exposed to that your body isn't capable of, from what you breathe to what you put on your skin, all of it. And the last one is your hormones. Some people, especially women, will make hormone metabolites that they themselves are inflammatory. So these are the things to cover. And so far we're talking a lot about the first one, stress, spirit, mind, etc. But that's also the place where people are least aware has a direct connection to their health.
Agreed. Agreed. But it's becoming more and more prevalent. And, most of the viewers who are going to see this on PMC Global are in India. And, it was an interesting thing where when I was at the Mega Meditation Summit 2 in North Carolina this couple months ago, speaking on stage, and I taught a couple side classes. And when I was asking people, okay, how many of you have ever had a spiritual event that really catapulted your spirituality? For me, it was a near suicide, and started my out-of-body experience journey where I started to have my higher self save me from myself. When I asked that question, no hands went up. And I was going, this is strange. And then I started asking questions, because having the right answer is smart, but having the right question is genius. And I asked people, how many of you started meditating when you were 4 or 5 years old? Every hand went up. And I went, whoa, this is different than the American society that I'm used to, where people come into it in, their 30s, 40s, 50s, or, maybe because of a plant journey, or they hit rock bottom in their life and they're having a midlife crisis and need to calm down to get into the spiritual and meditation space. And so this is really inspiring, that even if you haven't been meditating your entire life, there is no time like right now to begin this. And you will live a longer, happier, better life. And honestly, a lot of people, unfortunately, I think, they get so unconscious in their actions that they think that their purpose in life was really to come down here, have a job, make money, have kids, have a house and a mortgage, be miserable the whole time, and die in agony. And that was the purpose of their life. That is not the purpose of why we come here. And so, Kashif, what I'm seeing from you, and is so inspiring to me, and I hope everybody out there is just like really feeling this in your heart, that when you start to take care of your body on the most fundamental level of our genetics, it's the foundation that will allow everything else, including your spirituality, to thrive. And I'm just waxing poetic on this, but that's really what I'm feeling. And so everybody out there, I highly suggest that in this new modern era where we have all these toxins and we have all this stress, we have these things breaking us down, but we also have this amazing technologies and understanding of our body and of our spirit that we never had before becoming available. This is invaluable for those of us who want to have that amazing life and live our purpose. And now that I know that you can test your genes and find out why you're actually what you're actually best at while you're on the planet, that is incredible. So how do you see the future of this field evolving with the advancements of neuroscience, holistic health, things like that?
I see that, first of all, there's pressure now. We see it more than ever before for change. Who pushed us too hard, right? In terms of the foods, the toxins, etc. And too many. You go from 2 generations ago, 1 in 10,000 kids was autistic. 1 generation ago, it's 1 in 500, and now it's 1 in 34. Well, when you get those kind of numbers, then you're going to get pushback, which is what we're now experiencing. So people are demanding better. Demanding better means we are building our own systems and tools, because the system doesn't provide those tools. The toolkit of the doctor is for emergencies. It's not for health, right? When you take medical research that only studies sick people, never studies healthy people to teach us about health, you're going to end up with a sick care system, which is what we have instead of a healthcare system. So I see coming very quickly is all this technology, research, and science from outside of the industry that people are themselves driven to, through whether they're paying out of pocket, their insurance company doesn't cover it yet, eventually overriding and replacing this broken system. And we're at that point now. We're seeing, from the biohacking movement to integrative health to functional medicine, there's a lot of it going on. We now have like almost 50,000 functional medicine doctors in the US. So that there used to be, around 10 when I started this journey. So exponential change. The big thing that you're going to see coming in terms of the world that I come from is gene editing. So what you're going to see is, suppose I told you that there's a gene that says you make toxic hormones and that might increase your risk for prostate cancer as a man, right? And so what I can do right now is give you a plan on what supplements to do, what foods to do that help block that hormone so that you're not worried about it. But in the future, I'm going to be able to go in, edit the gene, and just turn it off. And that's not too far away. We're about 5 years from that. So the science actually works today, but it hasn't been applied to all of these areas, and it's coming.
Wow. Okay. That's really inspiring. A good friend of mine, they were born with a genetic mutation called incontinentia pigmentosa, which is very rare. So hearing that they may actually be able to have that gene actually downregulated or turned off so that they no longer have that disease. I mean, that's really emotional because I love this person dearly, and it's been very trying for 45 years of their life to think that that could happen. And there are so many people as well that come in with these genetic mutations because of the environment from their mother ingesting certain things, or even, I mean, there's so many things that can do this. So Kashif, thank you so much for being here. And I want to ask you, what practical advice or exercises would you offer the viewers and the listeners right now who are new to all this and they really want to start experiencing the benefits right now? Please tell people how they can find you, how they can get involved, and really start improving their health today.
So, I would say the big ones are personalization, bioindividuality is key. So one size fits all is what's hurting us. The trial and error of, let me try this, let me try that, and then eventually something works, but along the way I hurt myself by trying 2 or 3 things. When you're a bio-individual and you do exactly what your body needs, it works better, and you save money and you save time, and it just feels great, right? So know that if you do that, chronic disease is optional. We think that cardiovascular disease, diabetes, these things run in our family. They don't. If they do, why weren't you born with it? Why aren't kids born with Alzheimer's, right? It needs to be caused. So yes, you may have some genetic propensity, but you also need to have the wrong food, the wrong stress, the wrong something, which is another genetic propensity, which in total combination equal the problem. So just know that the pace at which you age, how fast you age, the level of illness you have, the level of energy, your libido, your hair, your skin, all of that stuff is optional. None of it is just determined. It's based on your genes plus your habits. I would also say that for your community here, as you were mentioning, go to my website, etc. I wanted to, I value that we have a community here that's a little unique in terms of its consciousness level and the spirit and all that, and I really enjoy that, right? So I would say go to my personal website, and I'm going to create a discount for this community. So if anybody wants testing, right? So don't go to the DNAcompany.com. You can go there to learn and research, but I'll give you my personal website so that it's not on the main website and other people don't see it. And we'll make sure that I'll upload a test there, DNA testing, and even coaching program with me, that type of stuff, at I'll call it a wholesale price. I want to make sure that this community, I'd love to work with you guys. Let's just say that, right? Me as an individual. Yeah.
Beautiful. So for everybody who's out there, you can go to the DNAcompany.com, but wait until you see the show notes. All right. We're going to put Kashif's personal site in there as well as that coupon code. I was not expecting that. I would like to say thank you, Kashif, for doing that for all these amazing humans on the planet. That people have a lot of the same goals. We want to come here. We want to find our purpose. We want to live a good life. We want to have a family. We want to, some of us who consider it, we want to die a good death too. We don't want to just have a good life. There's a Buddhist saying that I work on every single day. How can I live, love, and die completely today? That if my day is the last one, can I live and can I love completely? And
right.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm a believer. Maybe I'm not. Well, one of the other genetic types. I'm not quite sure, but that's something that for everybody out there. Patriji, who founded the PSSM movement, the guru who founded this, the pyramid meditation movement. I've got 2 of his pyramids sitting up on a shelf there, and it says, "Be with your breath, meditate daily. Be with your breath, meditate daily. And that's exactly what I've been teaching for 25 years. And there have been amazing things showing lengthening of telomeres, the activation of mitochondria through specifically intermittent hypoxic breath work, which the Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology in 2019 was won by a team of researchers showing the benefits and even reversal of cancer of using intermittent hypoxia. Not chronic. I mean, go to 45,000 feet and don't have oxygen, you're going to have some problems. But it's amazing what we can do with these tools that are already within us. But here's an interesting thing. Like you said, the broadcast shotgun, one size fits all approach. Not a single one of us has the same genetic code. Okay, maybe identical twins, but they have different other things. That means there's nothing that's going to work for all of us. And so finding out, belief is a poor substitute for knowledge, and having this knowledge of what you bring, Kashif, is so valuable for people, because most allopathic physicians will never be able to tell them, and they're just going to give them a prescription. They're going to say it's probably this, and we're going to keep an eye on it. But in the United States, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the United States, atriogenic death is the second leading cause of death in the United States, behind heart disease, in front of cancer.
Right.
And atriogenic death means death by medical malpractice. It could be drugs, could be surgeries, could be infections, but it is medically caused, or caused by the allopathic medical system in some way. That's a lot of people who are going out unnecessarily. Like, if my leg's broke, please put it back together. But if I have eczema, or if I have psoriasis, or I have lupus, or if I have something like that, I know so many doctors that have said, we suck at chronic disease. We really don't know what we're doing. So what you're doing, Kashif, is you're giving people that ray of hope, so that good, bad, or ugly, they will understand more about their body and who they are. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with this amazing community. For everyone out there, I would like to say thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure, and what you're doing is amazing, so I thank you for including me. It's an honor.
Well, as Ram Dass said, we're all kids walking each other home. And sometimes we get to walk side by side, and hopefully we're not stepping on anybody's laces and tripping them. And if we need a piggyback ride, we can be those people as well.
Beautiful.
So for everybody out there, once again, Nate Zeleznick with Integrated Ascension Method, here with the Pure Minds, Pure Energy Enlightenment Sessions with Nate and the PMC. Signing off. I will see you in the next episode. Please make sure you look at the show notes. Go to Kashif's personal site, use that coupon, and use it in good health. All the love and power to you, my friends. We'll see you next time. Hey, my friends, what an incredible journey we've shared today. If you felt even a spark of inspiration or power, don't let it stop here. Take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who needs it. Seriously, think of just one person who could benefit from what you've experienced today. Because together, we're building something so much bigger than ourselves. This is more than a show. It's a movement, a space where leaders, visionaries, and seekers like you come to transform, elevate, and align. So don't just follow, become a part of the community. Subscribe to the PMC YouTube channel and follow the I Am Integrated Ascension Method everywhere you can. And let's create something extraordinary together. I'm truly excited to share with you your next step to transformation. So head over to IamPure.energy and sign up for my free Perfect Breath class. You'll unlock the secret to mastering your breath, your energy, and ultimately your life. And for those who are ready to go deeper, our masterclass and weekly sessions are waiting to take you to that next level. Make sure that you're here next week, because, as always, I'll be sitting down with another world-changing guest, someone who will blow your mind and give you tools to rise even higher. And don't come alone. Invite your friends, your team, or anyone who's ready to grow. And let's expand this circle of impact one breath at a time. Until then, remember, your potential is limitless. Your power is real. And it all begins with a single breath. Together, we're creating the future. I'll see you next time, my friend. Together we rise. See you soon.